Who's that thing even shooting, man? Boom! That was cool. Hey guys, LEVELCAP here, and today I want to tell you about the best space cowboy game you will ever play. Rebel Galaxy Outlaw. Have you ever wanted to romp around the galaxy with a bunch of quirky characters? Go to bars, play pool, bounty hunt, trade, pirate, and go on a somewhat lighthearted and highly engaging adventure? Because that's exactly what I was in the mood for when loading up this game, and I was absolutely not disappointed. Rebel Galaxy Outlaw came out last month, and although it's technically a prequel to the 2015 Rebel Galaxy, the story certainly stands on its own. Now, I want to get more into the details of what makes this game so special, but first I'd like to thank Epic Games for sponsoring this video. Rebel Galaxy Outlaw is available on the Epic Games Store. Click the link in the video description to get it now. You can also use my Support a Creator code during the purchase to help support my channel. Now, let's talk about the game. Upon loading up Rebel Galaxy Outlaw, I was immediately hit with waves of nostalgia. Not only does this game harken back to the 90s and early 2000s space combat games like Wing Commander, Free Space, and Freelancer, but it also mixes in that space western theme that has truly become a romantic notion within nerd culture. If you're a fan of the shows Cowboy Bebop or Firefly, then there's a good chance this game will appeal to you. The sounds of twangy banjos and laser guns are ever present in this universe, as the developers have licensed dozens of country songs and even let you cycle between radio stations while running missions. You also have the option to actually play your own music in-game if you wanted to. Now, Outlaw doesn't take itself too seriously, which is perfect for the art style and atmospherics. Brightly colored spaceships, roulette wheel space stations, and an array of multicolored beam weapons and explosions will remind you that this is the Wild West of space. Though space itself doesn't feel particularly empty or lonely. Even running basic cargo missions can often result in an ambush or a distress signal that pulls you off course and throws you into a mini adventure that I was usually more than willing to go on. Outlaw is essentially an open world space game. You can jump in between different systems, different planets, explore asteroid belts, junk fields, go on all kinds of crazy missions wherever you want, or you can pay more attention to the story missions. Now, in between your missions, you'll need to dock at local space stations. These are always interesting in design and atmosphere. Once at a space station, you can make ship repairs, refuel, buy new ships or components, grab some missions from the local guilds, and of course, drop by the bar. The bar is actually where a lot of the information comes from, and especially if you're running a longer story mission, there's probably some shady characters that you're going to need to talk to at the bar. The bartenders are also a good source of information and tips on local bounties or transport ships, so if you want to do some pirating or bounty hunting, they're a great resource for getting you into that. And if you want to stay a little while longer at the space station, you can play some pool, some dice, slot machines, arcade machines, depending on what you like. Sometimes you can wager a little bit more than just money and win some nice components for your ship. Though you'll actually have to be good at playing pool, and the game knows the rules. All I'm going to say is, don't scratch on the 8-ball. Don't scratch. Don't scratch!
Heck yeah.
That was close, man. Now, of course, there is an overarching story. You're a bounty hunter trying to get back on your feet to hunt down the guy who killed your husband. And it's safe to say a lot more than a simple tale of vengeance will unfold as you progress on this journey. But the rest of the game will certainly pull you away from the main missions, and it's honestly a welcome distraction. Often the story missions will pull you into very dangerous sectors of space, and if your ship isn't up to spec, well, you're not going to have such a great time getting chased around by the local riffraff. Pirates are everywhere in this game, and although you have a lot of interesting tools to try and deal with them, it can still be daunting when you're up against overwhelming odds. One of the really interesting combat features that I've enjoyed along the way is the comm system. Basically, you can open a comm channel with any nearby ship, and if it's an enemy, you can taunt them to pull aggro off of friendlies, or even plead with them to let you off the hook. And if it's a really dire situation, you can always jettison some cargo to try and sweeten the deal and let them leave you alone. Hopefully, you don't have to plead too much in this game. I usually just went down with the ship when I found myself outmatched. There's a decent variety of enemy ships to go up against, and it certainly helps to learn what they can do. Small, fast, and fragile fighters can make good initial targets, but steer clear of the frigates and destroyers until you have dealt with the smaller craft. The big guys take a lot of firepower to bring down and have some very powerful guns to boot. So, you want to make sure that you can take them on with as little additional threats as possible. Sometimes you'll come across the local police in a shootout with the pirate gang, and if you can help sway the battle in their favor, it'll earn you some reputation along the way. Upgrading your ship with unique components will also open up new gameplay opportunities for you. A smuggler's cargo hold upgrade will allow you to pick up pirate contraband after a shootout and take it to a station that trades in illegal wares for a decent profit. You can always just try and throw it into your normal cargo hold as well, but if the police scan you, which they often do in high security systems, then you're in a bit of trouble. I actually chose to upgrade my ship with a mining scanner and a mining laser as soon as I could afford them. Not only is mining asteroids a fun distraction, but you'll also find valuable asteroids when running combat missions. So having the gear to mine some of the ore along the way can net you some big bucks. Money is actually where it's at in this game. Most items or upgrades only require cash purchases, so if you can handle your economics early on, you'll get access to some of the best ships and weaponry to hopefully make some of the tougher bounties and missions more accessible. Better shields, better armor, better guns, countermeasures, scanners, repair bots, and lock-on missiles. All of this stuff will need to be used effectively in order to win your fights. You'll also make friends as you progress through the story, and these friends can be called in to aid you during a firefight and help pull some of that incoming fire away from you. You can only do this once in a while, but it can be a real lifesaver if you need to take on some big baddies. Now, when it comes to actually flying around and fighting, there's an interesting mechanic in Outlaw that gets you past what might otherwise be some very repetitive space combat mechanics. Chasing other ships and following them around as they dodge and weave can be done predominantly with an auto-follow control. This will do a lot of the tedious piloting for you and even some of the aiming as well. If you finesse it manually, you can get better results, but ultimately, this can make the game more accessible and reduce the monotony of combat to an extent. I wasn't sure how I would feel about this feature since it does kind of feel like a cheat, but honestly, it just made the combat so much more enjoyable and still challenging. Since a lot of the piloting is handled for you, now your skills revolve around timing countermeasures, adjusting power levels between weapons, engines, and shields, and knowing when to run from a fight or back out of overwhelming odds. Also, if the idea of autopiloting offends you, well, it's an optional feature, and the more advanced difficulty settings have it turned off anyway. So, if you like the challenge of doing it all manually, that's still an option. And getting back to the fact that this game reminds me so much of those old school space sim games, it really does feel like the developers have made this game as not only a tribute to those old style space combat games, but also as an improvement. They're sort of dealing with a lot of the problem areas or the monotonous areas of those games by speeding it up, making it enjoyable. There's cool little cutscenes for landing, taking off, requesting, docking, and all that kind of stuff. And if you want to experience all of that every time, you certainly can. You can even watch yourself travel through hyperspace to your next destination. Or you can just do a quick jump so you don't have to watch the cutscene every time. They just give you the options to experience the game as more of an old school 90s sim, or you can play it with some of the new, slightly faster tools to make the experience probably better paced for a modern day audience. Overall, I have to say Rebel Galaxy Outlaw has a lot of personality for a space game. A decent underlying combat and economic meta with a fun story and characters. Check out the game by clicking the link in the description below, and once again, thanks to Epic Games for sponsoring this video. I'm gonna go get my Space Cowboy on, and I'll see you guys later. This is LevelCap, signing off.